Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening. Coming up tonight, a new corrections facility promised by the National Security Minister. Today, the price tag, $40 million. The Russian-Ukraine conflict high on the Caricom agenda. Foreign Minister Fred Mitchell talks about the Bahamas' role in international sanctions. And later, a disabled woman beaten. The incident is caught on camera. Tonight, public outrage over the viral video. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Candido Knowles. Topping the news tonight, a $40 million corrections facility is on the horizon as the National Security Minister announced today that government plans to build a new facility on the existing ground soon. Our Sasha Lightbourne reports.
Noting that this prison facility has existed since the 1950s, Minister of National Security Wayne Munro says the government is committed to building a state-of-the-art facility with solar panels. This as U.S. Embassy officials donated $300,000 worth of equipment to the Department of Corrections today.
The approximate cost for that project will be in the region of $35 to $40 million. It will involve prefab steel prison cells, 3 stories of them, centrally controlled. It'll have to take into account the government's project on, policy on renewable energy. So we'll have to have solar photoelectric cells on the roof, and it will basically be one that all the contraband you see that they would have hidden in their cells. The steel cells don't permit you to dig and hide anything in them at all.
Munro says the plan is to build the new facility just south of the medium security prison on the Fox Hill compound.
We have to first take the proposal to Cabinet, which I expect to be favorably received, and taking the Cabinet approves, that provision would have to be made in the upcoming budget for that.
And these new cells will be prefabricated in the United States.
They've already presented to the ministry. The ministry and the government have already sent a team of public officers over to inspect the production line of that company and to inspect 2 prisons actually built and delivered by that company. It is time in the Bahamas that we move from the 1950s to the 21st century, and is our objective in short order to do just that.
Reporting for our news, I'm Sasha Lightbourne.
Meantime, a crackdown on contraband at the Bahamas Department of Corrections has led to the confiscation of a myriad of items, including cell phones said to be used to arrange murders outside its walls. Jasmine Brown has the details.
Prison officials confirming today that the crackdown has lasted for months and hundreds of items have been confiscated. Drugs, cell phones, and even homemade weapons fashioned out of everyday items like toothbrushes were among a long list of contraband seized by corrections officers during sweeping searches since last September. Acting Commissioner of Corrections Don Clare says that's when the Research and Detection Unit was set up.
We have confiscated more stuff than this, but this is all the table can hold at this time. So we but this is a very aggressive unit and a very productive unit. Some things that are used by the police as part of investigations, like cell phones, because some phones were linked to murders, and those phones were turned over to the police. Some of the drugs is before the courts now.
Inspector Delvin Taylor, who works in the unit, says over the 5-month period, 174 cell phones, 1 pound of marijuana, dozens of cell phone chargers, several headphones, and scores of homemade weapons were confiscated.
Part of the contraband was found in medium security, also on the compound as well.
While smuggling contraband onto the Fox Hill facility is nothing new, Claire says with searches increasing, smugglers are finding riskier ways to get the contraband into B-docks, like tossing items over perimeter walls. He says, put bluntly, the searches have also caused a hike in the sale of drugs at the facility.
Then we arrived. A joint of marijuana in prison was worth $5. Since the unit has been formed, a joint now is $20. So that tells you right here, supply and demand.
Claire says in addition to reestablishing a unit, officials are also hoping to implement additional technology to aid in searches. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
As the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues, Foreign Minister Fred Mitchell, who is in Belize tonight with the Bahamian delegation to Caricom, says the Bahamas will co-sponsor a vote for a resolution of commendation either later today or on Wednesday in Caricom's General Assembly. The vote will determine whether sanctions will come from this region, as Russia, a member of the United Nations Permanent Five, vetoed a draft UN Security Council resolution on Friday that would have deplored Moscow's invasion of Ukraine.
Until the Security Council passes a resolution that imposes sanctions, we're not bound by those. So the question is whether we will join with our allies like the United States, Canada, the European Union, and impose sanctions on Russian entities or Russian government individuals. That's a matter which our own Prime Minister will raise here to see what the consensus is. And then, of course, the Caribbean is supposed to be a nuclear-free zone. And we've seen some reports circulating on the press that the Russians have been.
And the Department of Public Prosecutions is also looking into sanctions against Carnival cruise lines following allegations of the cruise liner illegally dumping sewage and other waste in our waters. Transport Minister JoBeth Colby-Davis confirming as much, saying this incident will set a precedent. Berthany McDermott tells us more.
Sanctions could be on the way for Carnival cruise lines, according to Transport Minister JoBeth Colby-Davis. Her comments come days after environmentalist Sam Duncombe called for the government's investigation into Carnival's alleged dumping of sewage and waste in Bahamian waters to be published. While she didn't say if details of that probe will be published, she revealed that it is now on to the Department of Public Prosecutions.
I was advised that the office had handed that investigation over to the DPP, who has to carry out and complete the environmental portion of that report so they can determine which sanctions would be placed on Carnival. And so I think the discussion now lies with the DPP and the Attorney General's office to determine which what the penalties would be as relates to Carnival. And so my office just did the investigation along with them because that falls under us when it's those sort of incidents.
In 2019, a U.S. court-mandated report discovered that Carnival ships dumped hundreds of thousands of gallons of treated sewage and more than 8,000 gallons of food waste in Bahamian waters in 2017. The court found that Carnival violated the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, which speaks to how food waste and sewage should be disposed of. While in opposition, Prime Minister Philip Davis was a vocal proponent of the investigation and urged the government to assess the damage done and remedy potential damage at Carnival's cost. Colby-Davis added that the details of the report weren't surprising to her. She said what's important is the right reaction. Now, Colby-Davis says this investigation will set precedent and will cause vessels entering Bahamian waters to be more respectful of the environment.
This isn't something that you would see done anywhere else. And so the respect is something that we're raising for them to have that relationship with us, to be allowed to carry out the cruise services and not give us that same respect that they would give in any other territory, in any other jurisdiction.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
And public outrage continues tonight over a viral video showing an elderly woman being beaten by a caretaker. Jared Higgs is following this.
Stay in the car. Don't come up. Don't come up. Don't put me in trouble.
This video allegedly capturing the moment a disabled woman was abused by a caretaker. According to the person who captured the video, it was taken shortly after 5 p.m. on Friday in the parking lot of a popular supermarket. The camera person says she saw an elderly-looking woman wandering around the parking lot in a nightdress and Pampers. 2 minutes later, the other woman in the video shows up and grabs the woman by the wrist. That's when the bystander started filming.
Go inside.
The video takes an unpleasant turn when the woman gets into the driver's seat. As the bystander films through tinted glass, the sounds of what appears to be somebody being struck and scolded come from within the vehicle. In response, the woman in the nightdress wails.
Would you want, your Of course not, right? That's like you stand on a wall, that's correct.
I got little children too, and I don't want nobody be beaten, you know what I mean? I feel bad for them, I feel bad for too. You know, it's sad, but that's what's up. Sometimes that's what's be happening in this little town, you know.
Members of the public were outraged when the video made the rounds online, with many people calling for the woman in the video to be identified.
That was not nice at all.
When you first saw it, like, what was your reaction?
It was shocking. It's like, wow, shocking.
I hope they can at least figure out who the person is and they can at least deal with the situation and get to the bottom of it. You on that part, I'm sure you will, but no.
The person who recorded the video says she was approached by a police officer about potentially making a statement. Our news team reached out to police and social services officials, but got no response up to news time. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
We've got a rainy start to the work week. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest. Greg?
Thanks, Gindino. Welcome everybody for our first look at weather, brought to you tonight by Ports International, trusted medical supplies for a better quality of life. Quiet evening outside our studios right now. Just a few clouds. We did have a couple of showers earlier, and we still see a couple of those lurking out there. Temperature at 74. Winds are almost light. They're saying north at 1 mile per hour. Nah, we call that light. Feels like temperature, a very muggy 78. On the outdoors, satellite-wise, a weak prefrontal trough across the northwest Bahamas, generating a few showers, isolated thunderstorms across that area. Weakening as it pulls towards the south and east across the area, but the real frontal boundary is still hanging out across North Florida. We expect that to get here sometime late tonight through tomorrow, so we're looking for some more showers and isolated thunderstorms in your forecast. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
And still to come tonight, the Bahamas to host Caricom next year, but it may surprise you to find out which island is being considered. Plus, the news on the long-awaited announcement on the return of Junkanoo. You're watching Our News.
Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Foreign Minister Fred Mitchell says government is eyeing Exuma as the venue for the 2023 meeting of Caricom, and the Bahamas will play host. Mitchell, who is in the Bahamian delegation at this year's meeting in Belize, telling Our News today that government is taking notes on its trip as the planning for next year's meeting begins now.
Where this is taking place is an island which is very much in description like Exuma. Yeah. And so thinking the Prime Minister was thinking that perhaps that's where we ought to stage our own heads of government meeting next year. So the planning has to begin now. It's a lot of work to do to coordinate the schedules of 20 different countries, but I think we're up to the task because we've done it before. So that's where we are.
The Bahamas Department of Correctional Services getting more than $250,000 in equipment today. The new equipment is earmarked to aid in searches at the correctional facility. The items were handed over by the United States Embassy during a special ceremony this afternoon. U.S. Chargé d'Affaires, Yusha Pitts.
It's a fairly sizable donation. The value of this equipment today is almost $300,000.
The items handed over included a Leidos Safe View Advanced Imaging System, an astrophysics X-ray inspection system, radios, and other equipment.
Going to help protect the safety of everybody who is at this facility, no matter what side of the padlock you're on. This will improve your safety and security. It's good for inmates, it's good for visitors, and it's good for the officers who work here.
The Department of Immigration has some new graduates tonight. After weeks of intense training, the class included 3 canines, all ready to help immigration officers with tracking, search, and rescue at some of the busiest ports of entry. Sharika Johnson has this.
Meet Ruby, Anna, and Caesar, the latest graduates of the Department of Immigration. These 4-legged pedigree dogs received their diplomas from the Immigration Minister, Keith Bell, on Monday after 12 weeks of training, making their appointments official.
Incidents here in New Providence,
I live in the Adelaide area, and we know that last year there was a landing very near there. A number of persons, one person actually ended up in my yard. And so if we had the canines deployed in that area, I'm sure we would have found any number of migrants, but a number of them got away.
The 2 Belgian Malinois and 1 German Shepherd are being stationed in the Family Islands. One of those posts is Inagua, a main immigrant entry point. Officer David Roll is in charge of the canine unit.
They're going to assist with security and protecting our water, patrolling, and if we have the influx of boat landing, searches and search and rescue.
These canines, commonly called man's best friend, are trained in critical life-saving techniques.
I can recall several incidents where had we had the canine deployed, that we would have saved a life. But unfortunately we didn't, and we lost lives. And so I'm very excited to see that the Bahamas Immigration Department is expanding its canine unit.
The minister also announcing that future recruits will be housed and trained at a facility proposed for Carmichael Road, next to the existing detention center. For our News, I'm Sharika Johnson.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
All right, still to come tonight, we find out whether it's time to head back to the shacks, the latest on the return of Junkanoo. And later, Marcellus is up with sports. Our news returns in a moment.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
You're watching our news. Welcome back. 1 month after the groundbreaking ceremony for Pinecrest Subdivision, Housing Minister Jobeth Colby Davis toured that subdivision today, noting that the first phase of the development should be complete by the beginning of June. She says applicants have already been approved. The homes will be constructed by Arawak Homes, and they will partner with the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute to provide training for students in that sector.
We're looking between May, June. So potentially, I'm hoping the beginning of May, but I'm hearing possibly the end of May, the early part of June, we'll get the first 10 homes rolled out. No, this site is actually giving us 48, but what happened is they started with producing 20 of the homes will be started, and then they're going to roll out and complete the 10 initially, and then they'll go with the process from there on out.
It's one of the most anticipated announcements coming in this post-COVID era, the return of Junkanoo. Cale Campbell fills us in.
Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture Mario Boleg says he expects Junkanoo to be held this year and is waiting on the proposed action plan from the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence and the Bahamas National Junkanoo Committee. But with the downward trend in COVID cases, he believes there's no reason why there can't be an in-person gathering for Junkanoo.
It could be virtual or even still in person. I still say and strongly believe there will be Junkanoo. So which one it will be, we will determine that. All stakeholders will determine that. So I can't say right now whether it will be virtual, whether it will be in person or some other form, but I know there will be Junkanoo.
At the beginning of the year, many Bahamians voiced their criticisms on the low quality of video production for the virtual online event Spirit of Junkanoo, which was also condemned by the Junkanooer Committee. Boleg says Bahamians will see an improvement of the audio-visual production of the event, adding that it will be professionally done by a tried and tested Bahamian company.
We're going to go back to who knows how to do it best. I guess we'll leave it just like that. And we know even them themselves learns every time they go and do it, they're learning something new. So we know who can do it great, and it will be done properly this time.
When asked whether there will be a Junkanoo contribution to the cultural presentation for when the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge visit in March, Bolig says that is being handled by the Director of Culture.
Our Director of Culture is involved in the planning. Of course, this is under the Secretariat. Her Excellency Leslie Bryce, who's leading the way, and we are just supporting them in whichever way we can. And so I am allowing my director to assist them in as relates for preparation for cultural involvement, that is.
For our news, I'm Cale Campbell.
Our men's basketball team takes one of two games in the World Cup qualifiers in the Dominican Republic. Marcellus Hall is up next with sports.
All right, thanks, Candino. Welcome to our sports on a Monday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Our men's national basketball team went into action this past weekend with a two-game set. They were hoping for 2 wins, but they would take as many as they could get in the process. 1-1 ain't bad as we take a look and see exactly how they did. Our men's national basketball team will return home with a 1-1 win-loss record following their 2-game set this past weekend at the World Cup qualifiers. First round of opening window taking place this past weekend in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. Bahamas winning against the U.S. Virgin Islands in their first game. Couldn't quite get it done against the Dominican Republic yesterday as they went down 90-65 in that particular game. Again, Bahamas getting what they wanted, which was at least 1 win in this 2-game set. Yesterday's game saw Travis Munnings leading the way with 16 points, 9 rebounds. Tavario Miller dropped in 14, and Danrad Chicken Knowles, he had a dozen. Michael Thompson Jr. added 10. Those closed out the 4 plays in double figures for Bahamas. They again return home with a 1-1 win-loss record in that first 2-game set. They will now move on to the second round of qualifiers. We'll keep an eye on that, give you more details as it continues to develop. Other news now, we had our NBA players in action yesterday. Taking a look at how they did. First of all, let's take a look at Buddy Hield. He and the Indiana Pacers going up against the red-hot Boston Celtics. And boy, how about a game by Buddy Hield? Getting it done big time yesterday. Played 38 minutes, finished up with 21 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Most importantly for Indiana, they get a nice win here. Final score ends up being 128-107. How about DeAndre Ayton? He and the Phoenix Suns were also in action yesterday. And the Suns taking on the Utah Jazz, still without Chris Paul in action. And it showed a bit down the stretch as Utah getting the win here. 118-114 ends up being the final. If you're wondering about DeAndre's output in the course of this one, well, he played 34 minutes in this one, had 23 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. Filling out the stat sheet, however, it did come in a losing effort. Both players will be back in action later on this week. And there it is. You look at sports here on this Monday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Candino.
All right, thanks a lot, Marcellus. But when we come back, showers expected to continue tonight. You'll find out more for the week ahead in our final look at weather.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. We've got some rough weather conditions in the forecast tonight, but with more on the conditions for the rest of the week, Greg is back with our extended forecast. Greg?
Thanks again, Candino. Welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. Prefrontal trough dropping into the northwest Bahamas with some showers and isolated thunderstorms affecting the northern islands, continuing to weaken as it drops towards the south and east. We are watching a frontal boundary across northern Florida. Low pressure system is expected to develop just to the north of the Bahamas along that frontal boundary, and as that low pulls out towards the north and east, it's expected to drag a frontal boundary into our area late tonight and into tomorrow. So showers and thunderstorms associated with that will continue to progress towards our area, and behind that, high pressure will be building in. Not a real cool down behind this frontal boundary, but dew point temperatures will make it feel rather comfortable, and we expect the winds to not really be blowing out there. Boating forecast for the northwest Bahamas. Those winds will start off tonight southwesterly ahead of that front, but they will be shifting northwest behind the front at 10 to 15 knots. Seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. Tide is presently high. Will be low at 14 minutes past midnight. For the central and southeastern islands, east to southeasterly winds at 10 knots. They will fall light and verbal at times. Your seas will be running 1 to 3 feet over the open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Monday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe evening, everybody. Gandino.
Thanks a lot, Greg, and thank you for joining us on Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Candino Knowles. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.